In this video, we're going to look at the next element, which is to add a house pad with appropriate dimensions and finished floor elevation. So we've already kind of gone through and adjusted our home for the appropriate finished floor elevation. However, let me go ahead and take a look through the properties palette, and I want to find the section box option and show when I cut in from the side what the house pad is going to do for us. So right now, here would be like a section view of our home, and you can tell the site itself, the topography is running right through the underneath of the home and right about where the crawl space should be. So we should go through and have this actually cleared out, because when we excavate for the home, we pour for it, and then we should have this open space in the bottom for our crawl space for us to be able to access any utilities or anything as such. So the house pad is going to go through and allow us to kind of create, and as I kind of look at bringing that in a little bit, that in just a little bit more, you're going to be able to see, some of this is going to end up being the same kind of scenario. So consistently, we want to go through and kind of remove that material or the ground or the existing earth, and that's what the building pad is going to let us do. So let me go ahead and we'll bring that back out. I'll leave that section box option available, but let's go ahead and take a look at our Habitat for Humanity floor plan. From here, we want to go through and do a couple of things. So I'm going to actually open up the visibility graphics from the properties palette, or if you press VV on your keyboard. We do want to go through and turn off a few visibility options in this view. We want to turn off roofs. And actually we want to go ahead and turn off walls. There's a reason for that. I'm going to go ahead and say apply, and I'm going to say OK. So what you're going to see is when you get to this level, and actually let's check to make sure we got a fine level of detail, is now we're just going to be able to see the floor and a few of the other elements that we have in our affordable home plan. So what we want this building pad to correspond to is the outside edges of the foundation walls that we set. So we hid the roofs that way we don't accidentally pick the overhang for the roof, and we don't want the walls because the trim, or the siding, and the plywood sheathing is going to go through and kind of stick out a little bit from the foundation wall. So this is where I'm going to go through and use the floor, because the foundation walls line up directly under the floor. On the massing and site tab, I'm going to go to building pad. And from here, I want to change just to the line tool. And what I'm going to do is, since I got the areas of the floor, is I'm just going to click, and I'm going to trace around the outside edges of the floor. And you're going to see I'm going to be able to get my corner snap points that I'm looking for. If you're unsure that you're actually getting those, you might want to zoom in a little bit just to make sure you're not clicking anything else that you don't need. All right, before I go through and hit the green check mark, this is the exact location line we want. Right now they have pad 1, so I'm going to go ahead and say edit type. And what this pad is going to represent, I'm going to duplicate this, and I want to call this the affordable house pad, and say OK. I'm going to go ahead and say edit under the structure. I am going to change this. This is going to kind of represent like a slab, so I do want to choose cast in place concrete for the material. And instead of a foot, I'm going to go ahead and change this to a more common kind of pad size that they would pour, which would end up being more like 3 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and set that thickness to 3 inches. And I'm going to say OK, and say OK. And then I'm going to make sure that I choose, because sometimes when you get this added, we don't want to hit the green check mark yet. But I want to change this to the grade level. But I do want to offset the height of it by a negative. So the height of our foundation walls is 4 feet. We actually want that to be set down below. Again, the thickness of the pad is 3 inches. So let's do about negative 3'9". We'll double check that in the section view. And then now that I have all that set in the properties, I'm gonna go ahead and hit the green check mark. Now, not a lot really looks like it happens. And actually, while we're on this view, let me go ahead and bring back the walls and the roof before I forget. And if we need to change those, we can, but actually those are actually going to be what we want. So those are brought back. And now I can go ahead and go to my 3D view, and you're going to see it doesn't really look like it changes a whole lot, but until I look at the section box and cut into the house, do I see now, here's what it has done. So looking at the view, it has set a pad that is right here. So that is sitting right on top of the footing, which is very common. And now I don't have the ground that is inside, and I can actually see that the inside of my foundation, my crawl space, I actually have devoid of earth material, and now it looks a little bit more realistic to what we have going on. So that is what the house pad does, and it allows us to go through. If I cut back even more, you're going to see, because we used the outside of that foundation wall, we were able to go through and able to see the inside of that. The reason why we didn't go to the inside is there can be a little bit of the green kind of earth, kind of grass material that can kind of conflict with the concrete. So I usually go to the outside. And when you're looking at it from a plan view, when you would go, if you were to go through and put this on a plan view, you would actually see, this a little bit better. But on a plan view, if you needed to adjust that, you could always go through and offset those by the thickness of the foundation wall, and that would work as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring the foundation or the section box back out, and I'll go ahead and turn that off. But this would go through, and you can actually see you'll actually see the pad, so we'll be underneath. You're able to see you're going to see a little bit of a conflict with the graphics there, the green and the concrete. That is normal to see in this case, and you're going to see the pad is kind of set up underneath. So, and that way you can still see the footing and everything. Still be a little bit of conflict as far as the graphics, but nothing to be concerned about. So this finishes up the video on how to add a house pad with appropriate dimensions and finished elevation in order to properly model our affordable home on our affordable home site.